It's probably the most misunderstood verse in the whole Bible. Hebrews 9:22 says this, "For without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sins." Looks like God's bloodthirsty. He needs blood before he's going to forgive. Folks, I'm going to demonstrate to you that this verse is not talking about how the individual person is forgiven sins after they commit them. It's not talking about how people receive forgiveness for their personal and private sins at all. The context is totally different. Let me give you the background to this verse and then I'll read it to you straight from the chapter. Moses brings out the children of Israel into the wilderness. God commands them, build them a sanctuary so I can dwell with them. So they build this big tent. They put objects in there made of gold, most holy place objects here, objects there. And they say, right, we're going to have a dedication service. Okay, an inauguration service of this covenant that God has made with us. So it says, get the blood. Everybody come, let's get the blood because life is in the blood. Blood cleanses, blood purifies. So he got everyone there around the tent, the sanctuary, and he gets blood and he throws it on the tent, he throws it on the most holy place, he throws it in the holy place, he throws it in all the objects, he sprinkles all the people with his blood. And without this blood, there can be no cleansing. So it's an inauguration ceremony and celebration of the first covenant. Now I've just told you that. That's the context of this verse. Let's read it. Verse 18 through to 22. Listen. This is why even the first covenant was not put into effect without blood. All right? It's talking about the putting into effect or inauguration of the first covenant, and it was inaugurated with blood. Context, please note. He's not saying, folks, this is what you got to do to have your sins forgiven. He's talking about when the first covenant was kicked off, inaugurated, the whole place was drenched in blood. To cleanse it, inaugurate it, dedicate it, and blood went everywhere. That's the context of the verse. Verse 20, he said, this is the blood of the covenant, which he has commanded you to keep. In the same way, he sprinkled with the blood both the tabernacle and everything used in its ceremonies. And in verse 19 it says, when Moses had proclaimed every commandment of the law to all the people, he took the blood of the calves together with water, scarlet wool, branches of hyssop, and he sprinkled the scroll and all the people. Blood everywhere. Inauguration, launching of the first covenant, celebration. Let's cleanse everything and dedicate it. We're now knocking on the door of the verse in question. It's not talking about how to have your sins forgiven. Look, verse 21. In the same way, Moses sprinkled with the blood both the tabernacle and everything used in its ceremonies. Blood everywhere. Why? Verse 22. Here's the verse. In fact, the law requires that nearly everything be cleansed with blood. What cleansed with blood? Everything. He got blood and he threw it all over the sanctuary to cleanse it, inaugurate it, and launch the first covenant. He's not talking about, hey guys, when you sin, this is what you do to get your sins forgiven. Kill an animal, shed the blood, and then God will forgive you. Not at all. Not at all. In fact, the law requires that nearly everything be cleansed with blood, comma, for without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. Doesn't say of sins. You say, but what is used the word forgiveness? Guys, go to some of the other more solid translations and you'll say, for without the shedding of blood, there is no remission. 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 When someone remits something, they take it out of someone's account. Something's cancelled. When you go into remission of cancer, it's actually going backwards. Something is remitted. It's taken away. It's removed. And uncleanness was removed, remitted from the sanctuary when they launched it and they sprinkled it with blood. They removed all the uncleanness. They forgave, and the Greek word there means to remit, to remove, and the context means cleanse. Look at the verse. It's written in two halves. In fact, the law requires that nearly everything be cleansed with blood. Cleansed with blood. And without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. What does forgiveness mean in that verse? To be cleansed. To be cleansed. Remission. Remission of uncleanness. But it's got nothing to do with how to receive your personal sins forgiven. It's talking about removing uncleanness from the Old Testament sanctuary service on the day that it was launched. And it said, let's clean out all the uncleanness, for without the shedding of blood, cleansing of blood, there is no remitting of uncleanness. It ain't talking about your forgiveness of sins. Can't use this verse, folks. Not for that. Bless you.